World MS Day is observed globally on May 30th each year, with this year's theme focusing on diagnosis. For many, a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis can be life-changing, bringing uncertainty and indeed emotional challenges, with each experience of the condition being different and often invisible. Marty Fennell, who's living with MS, is the driving force behind Looping the Loop. What is that, you ask? Well, it's a 50-kilometre open water rowing challenge around Loop Head in aid of the local MS support. It's organised by the Loop Head Rowing Club, and this event will see crews row from Kilkee around the Loop Head Peninsula, around that famous sign, past the lighthouse and on towards Carrigaholt along the Shannon Estuary, and also the new MS Ireland Resource Centre in Limerick, which will service Clare and North Tipperary. That's going to be a welcoming and supportive space dedicated to enhancing the well-being of people living with MS and other neurological conditions, and it's hoped that that will be opened by the end of this year. So we've lots to find out about this, and delighted to welcome to studio John McDonald, who's the Regional Community Worker for MS Ireland, and indeed Marty Fennell is with us here as well. Lads, good morning to you both.
Morning,
hard to be indoors today, I'd say, with the weather that's out there at the moment. Marty, a day you'd love to be on the boat in the water, keeping cool?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Tell us about this challenge, I suppose, Marty, first of all, where it came from, and maybe just start perhaps by telling us a little bit about your own journey with MS, when it kind of first came to your life, and what that was like.
Yeah, so I guess I could start with the challenge. So kind of it's the fundraising side of things is something I kind of wanted to do for a little while, and kind of I had the opportunity to bring this to the club at the AGM at the start of the year, and everybody absolutely hopped behind it. So I really have to say there as well, the members of Loop Head Rowing Club really are the salt of the earth. Pretty much from there. Sorry, could you ask that question?
Yeah, it's just, I suppose people might be interested in, if they are out there this morning and they're going through a similar journey to yourself. Maybe take us back to when it first came into your life, what that was like, hearing that news, and maybe how you adapted upon hearing it to bring you to this point.
Sure. So I suppose I first kind of had my first sense of illness back in 2015. I was in my final year of college and ended up there around October time of that year, ended up with blurred vision there for about 3 weeks. I was in and out of A&E. And then in November, I started having a domino effect of other symptoms. I lost my balance, I had numbness, by the time I got into A&E, I had some uncontrollable emotions where I was laughing and crying, and I was level-headed, but I couldn't control those emotions. So obviously that was the neurological damage happening at the time. That took a couple of months to recover. Then I ended up, we'll say, kind of taking my time after that. I had deferred out of college. Ended up then in 2016 in the summer having another flare, and that's when I would have received my diagnosis. So I would have gotten on treatment then at that time. And I kind of returned to college after that, after I recovered for part-time, and then I would have graduated in 2018, and I got away for years living a normal life. And then in 2024 I ended up having 2 flares that year, and that's kind of when I've kind of had to learn to slow down a lot more since then. I suppose that's my diagnosis in a nutshell.
I just wonder, is there a sense of relief of having a diagnosis in kind of saying, right, well, this is it, but also obviously then that sense of fear of the unknown, of what might be ahead? Is it a kind of a mixture of emotions, really? Yeah. There's an anxious environment from that. As I suppose you never know, as a person with MS, you never know what's going to be taken away from you, how much is going to be taken away, and how much you're going to get back. So yeah, it does create an anxious environment. But you know, there is things you can do, and you can get help from groups like MS Ireland. HSE is great. There's loads of community groups as well that can help out. I've learned kind of a lot of coping mechanisms now with breathing techniques, relaxation techniques and stuff like that. So that does help with it, and just trying to keep a silver line and, you know, keeping a positive attitude about things. And exercise helps too, like, you know. Yeah, that takes a bit of bravery to delve into that kind of research and come to fully understand it and try to be its master rather than maybe the other way around. You're from Kilkee, so you're looking out on the ocean and the estuary all your life, really. And taking to the water then with this event, was that kind of a natural progression?
Yeah, pretty much. So like I'm obviously loving the rowing club. It's just it's such a good community. And the exercise is brilliant. It's full body, so you can't beat that. Like I was saying, pretty much brought that idea to the club. They jumped behind it, and I'm stumbling here.
You're
I'm
fine.
so sorry.
It's not at all. It's a warm day. We'd all prefer to be in Kilbaha with a 99, to be perfectly honest with you. But absolutely. So this event, like as I said, taking to the water around that fabulous loop head, and I suppose it will no more. And maybe it's emblematic, perhaps, of your journey, that getting into the water and looking up at Loop Head Lighthouse rather than everybody going back there that's looking down on the water. It's a different viewpoint in a lot of ways. Yeah,
exactly. It's a whole different experience being out on the water.
Do you feel a sense of freedom when you're out there? Are you more 100. In control?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Which, again, that's very brave, because a lot of people would feel the exact opposite if they're on the estuary in a boat. Like,
I guess you could call me a water baby.
We'll get more details of the event in just a while, but as I said, John McDonald is with us here in studio as well, and John, Marty talks there about supports that are available and structures that are in place. I suppose that's where you'll have a real hands-on experience.
Yeah. Really identifying with what Marty's saying there in terms of MS itself. People often say that when you've met one person with MS, you've met one person with MS, because the journey can be so different for everyone. What Marty describes there in terms of symptoms, there's lots of people would have similar symptoms: mobility difficulties, balance. Some people have vision difficulties, and there's also the stuff that Marty talked about, emotional difficulties. Cognition can sometimes be affected. So the sort of supports that MS Ireland would put in place is, I suppose, we're kind of, my role as a community worker would be a sort of signposting role. So we often hear from people once they've been diagnosed. It's a very frightening time, obviously. It's a massive diagnosis to have, and it can be life-changing. And people maybe just don't know where to go or what's the next step. So that's where we come in. We can have a chat. We can direct them to services that they might need, depending on how they're doing at that time. Most of the time, people are doing okay at that stage. They might have had a flare-up of symptoms, and they're just wondering, what's the next stage? What do I do next? So it's sitting down with them, having a chat, pointing them in the right direction. Some people might be looking at their employment and saying, do I need to change what I'm doing? And so we can help people with that. And like Marty says, HSE are great. There's lots of different organisations out there that we can put them in touch with. But we also provide information, advice, advocacy. We put on different events. Tomorrow we've got an information fair down in Limerick for World MS Day. And we're delighted. It seems to be there's a lot of people very interested in coming to this. We've got Dr. Andrew Lockhart, who's a consultant neurologist, is going to be talking tomorrow morning. It's in Castletroy Park Hotel. And we also have Aisling O'Grady, who's a dietitian. So Andrew will be talking about new and emerging treatments with MS. And Aisling will be talking about nutrition and diet for people with MS. So in terms of other services, we do a lot of physio would be a major part of our services that we offer now. One of the silver linings, I suppose, of COVID was lots of stuff online stuff started happening. And so we were kind of forced into getting on board there, and most of our physio services are now run online, and it's around the country. We've got lots of people now who find it really good. They don't have to leave their home to go to a physio program. It's all online. It's led by our own physios, and it's we have the Move Smart and the Active Neuro programs, and they're really important for people. Like Marty said, exercise is a really important part of MS in terms of trying to keep maintain what you have.
Yeah, well, 50 kilometres now of a trip around Loop Head. You'd want to be in the full of your health for it at the best of times, let me tell you. But Marty, this new resource centre that's opening in Limerick, how much do you feel, having gone through your own road, how much will that help people now that are maybe starting out on that first step that you took, to have something relatively so local to help them out?
The resource centre?
Yeah.
So the way I see that is, to put it in a short line, I suppose, exercise builds neuroplasticity in the brain, and that's what's going to help you keep what you have more, pretty much. So, and like, I think as well, they're also probably going to have physios on site as well to help out there as well. So like having that resource there as close as possible to all of us within the region is invaluable, because in the long run, that is going to save what you have.
Take us through the challenge then. Is there a couple more lads taking it on with you, or how's it all going to work?
Yeah, perfect. So pretty much the challenge itself, our club is going to be running it. So we're going to also have our colleagues from Shoal Shunna who are also going to be involved in this with us, and the West Clare Kerr clubs are also going to be involved in this. So we're going to have a good flotilla of us on the water. The Kilkee Sub-Aqua Club as well will also be giving some help, and then a big part of this is safety. So we're going to obviously have to judge it. There's a couple of very seaworthy people doing charts for us. So we're going to be judging the weather conditions. So we're looking at around July or August. Preferably it will be a weekend, because that's when we'll have the most availability for people. And like the best we could give is maybe like a week's notice. Okay. Judging on Atlantic swell and stuff like that, and obviously changing wind conditions, trying to predict all that. Yeah. So yeah, the way we'll run it is we're going to be doing that row, as you were saying at the start there, from Kilkee around the Loop Head lighthouse and up the Shannon Estuary to Carrigaholt. We'll do that with about 4 teams, a few changeover points in between, where we have safety boats that will obviously be keeping assistance there, and we'll say about 20 people to our boat. We'll have our one boat running, and then Shoal Shunna will have their boat. So I think we are going to, I'm not sure actually which boat we're running, but it may be on Lochbeg. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's time for all that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And Shoal Shunna will be bringing their boat, Ailu, out with us, and then the Kirk guys will have their Kirks.
Fantastic. It must be so heartening that it's your own, I suppose it's 2 communities really, your local community, but also the wider curricking and sailing community, that they seem to have really rode in on this with you. Yeah.
The momentum that is behind this is unbelievably amazing. It's the only word I can say. It's so amazing.
Yeah, and like, if there's somebody out there listening this morning that is, as we say, on that very first step, is there any little nugget of advice that you would give them, Marty, having gone through it all before and really having a handle on it right now? You know, I know you said every journey is different, but I suppose maybe the starting point can often be similar. What's that one little nugget of advice you'd give them? Yeah,
so for anyone who is a person with MS or a person caring for someone with MS, you just know you're not alone. There is loads of supports out there. It might not seem like it, but they are out there. Many organisations can help. MS Ireland being one. Check in your local communities. There is organisations that can help. The HSC is amazing. For me personally, they were amazing. Even here, just to plug it in there as well, like with MS Ireland, we have a men's peer support group that has been instrumental to getting me back up on my feet there in 2025. So I would just say, no, you're not alone. Fantastic advice, John. I know, and I didn't know Marty before this morning, and I'm just getting the sense off him that he's a fella that's very slow to praise himself, so I'm going to ask you to do it to finish it up. And while he has spoken about the importance of the services, how important are people like Marty that are willing to put their head above the parapet and do for others?
Absolutely, massively important. I mean, the row, it's a challenge. When Marty first told me about it, I was kind of a little bit dumbstruck, I suppose, because I thought, wow, this is massive. It's such a big challenge, and it's an unusual one, it really catches the imagination. So to have the group, and I've talked to others in the group now on a number of occasions, they're so well organised and they're so willing and looking to help as much as they possibly can. Marty is obviously a very, very popular member of their group, and they really want to do it for him as well as for other people with MS. And just in terms of ourselves, like I say, we've got the new building in Limerick, and there's a lot of work needs to go into that, and obviously that involves an awful lot of money. So fundraisers like this are so important to us. We're what will happen in the building is we'll have the first fully accessible gym for people with neurological conditions. And that's the first fully accessible one in, it could be Ireland, but it's definitely in the Midwest region. So that's going to be available for people with MS and other neurological conditions in the area. And the building itself, it's a resource centre. It's somewhere where we're hoping people will just be able to drop in, they come in, have a cup of coffee, sit, have a chat. But we'll also be putting on other events there that at the moment, we have to maybe hire hotel rooms or whatever to do that. That's all going to be taken away from us. So that's going to be really good to have access to those facilities. But like I say, there's going to be a lot of fundraising going to be going on in the next few months. We hope to be in by the end of the year. So fingers crossed that'll happen. So fundraising like Marty's doing is, like I say, really, really important.
Yeah, Marty, you might have to do it the other way maybe next year, go from Carrigaholt around the loop. Just depending how things go. Lads, listen, thanks you both for taking the time to chat with us this morning.
Thanks,
and the very
Dave.
best of luck to you, Marty, on the couple of journeys you have ahead indeed, and we will be keeping track of it. Get back in touch with us when you have a date and all the rest of it, and we'll gladly plug it when we have all those full details confirmed.
Perfect, lovely stuff. And
that's great.
If anyone would like to find any more out about it, you can go to loopheadrowing.club and you'll find loads about the event there.
Yeah, mighty stuff, lads. Thanks so much for joining us here in the studio this morning. That is Marty Fennell and John McDonald.